And this week's interview is with Piet Sielck of the band Iron Savior. Of course, Pete was one of the first people that I had on the show in the first year that it aired. And Pete, tell me a bit about what's going on with you guys now. You have a new album out entitled Riding on Fire, which is a bunch of re-recorded songs from past albums. And talk a bit about your new release right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, Reforged Riding on Fire is just named. It's not a new studio album. It's a compilation best of album. I call it that way. But I wouldn't be Pete if I would do things the normal way. So just playing around with the bass and treble, and we are calling it remastered versions. I hate that, and it always is something like a rip-off to me, to be honest. I wanted to add some special value to the old songs, and that's why I decided to just re-record them. I thought that would be a suitable extra value to make this album, special. And so that was the basic idea, and the outcome is, that we came up with, recorded 18 classic Iron Savior songs from the so-called noise period. And put that on a brand new album, which was issued December 2017, and I like it pretty much. I think it's an awesome album. You should get it, everybody out there.
Now, me being the consummate musician, I notice little things that are different about the songs. For example, Eye to Eye is just a little bit different. There's a different type of intro. There's different stuff that's added, and in some cases, there's a couple things that you changed in them, but it's very minor. And were these things that you thought of after you originally recorded these songs, or thought of over the years that, hey, if I ever re-record this song, maybe we'll do this differently, and maybe talk a bit about some of the little minor changes you made in some of these tracks after, while you were re-recording them?
I'd say good combination of both. Of course, most of the songs who are on the album, I think only very little. There are songs which we never performed live. So most of the songs have been part of our live set throughout the past 20 years. And so if you play a song live, you probably know that for yourself, that it kind of like evolves away a little bit from the studio version, because definitely a live version is a different one than the studio version, because you don't have overdub techniques and blah blah blah, and you have to find a live arrangement to make the song work on stage. That, of course, does change the song a little bit, and that is what happened to songs on this album. That of course, some stuff that we have been how we altered the song to bring it on stage now has been banned on this record, of course, as a recording. And some other stuff just happened, spontaneously, when I just had in mind, maybe this sounds cool as well, let's try it out. And because that also was the plan to, not re-record them one to one, like 100%. I also had in mind to play around with the material a little bit without losing the original vibe that the special song has. That was more or less the plan for me. So, and you named songs like Eye to Eye, or let's talk about For the World, or a good example also would be the verses of Battering Ram, where the vocal line definitely is definitely in a higher pitch now. And that, of course, came because the album now is tuned in drop D, which is one tune down to the original recordings. And on some parts, it just turned out that the original vocal line was just definitely too low for me, for my voice. It didn't sound cool. It sounded like I was talking more than I was singing. And that, for example, was the case in Battering Ram, and that's why the verses have been pitched up, brought to the second harmony above the original harmony. And that did happen in some other parts. And also if you look at a song for the World, I didn't feel like singing the chorus 3 times in the same way, and which I did on the original recording. But here I thought, maybe an alteration in the end would be nice. And so that what makes the song a little bit, or all the songs, a little bit different from the original recording. So once again, the plan was not to redo them 100%. It was to catch the vibe of the original recording, of course, bring up the song again, and make it, gooder here and there.
Now, when you went and remixed Megatropolis, and you also, changed a few things on the album, did you have similar ideas going into doing that album when you did Megatropolis 2.0?
No, not too much. Megatropolis was different because the original recordings were still there. I just polished them up a little bit. Here, I really started off with a blank piece of paper to call it like this. I started to build up the song completely new from the drums. I could exchange some drum figures here and there, just small things, just little things that after, for example, a song was recorded, and probably that for yourself, it's recorded and you have no way in changing it, and then you keep playing it live and you think, why is that bass drum and the vocal line not together? It's because the bass drum was there before you were putting the vocal line on, or you did change something,
right?
And on the last minute, stuff like that. And so there are a lot of really tiny corrections that you will find on the new material,
right?
And that, of course, was different on Megatropolis. The original recordings were still there, and there was not so much space for me or to do this kind of stuff, And also the intention was a little bit different. I wanted to actually keep the original song and just boost it up a little bit. That's why I kept the vocal lines the way they were before, and just added some stuff, added some harmony vocals which weren't there and definitely were missing. But here on the new song, on Reforged, I really did some, well, not really dramatic, but some small changes here and there, which I think do the songs good.
And I agree. I thought it was interesting for you to hear you sing the vocals on For the World, which, was originally sang by Hansia Blind Guardian at the time. And hearing you sing it was kind of cool, actually.
Of course, I was tempted to bring in Hansi again, or to ask Kai to sing Watcher in the Sky. But on the other hand, I thought, no, maybe it's really cool if this is an Iron Savior only thing, because where to start and where to stop to have all these people again, and it also would have brought up all these look, Iron Savior, now he's going for the big names again, people, and I really don't want to have him, because this is really history, and it should remain history. So
right.
So this is an Iron Savior thing only, and actually for me, it was. In the end, I was really happy that I decided to do it on my own. Because I think I like my Watcher version. I think it's awesome. I love it.
Well, I honestly think that it was pretty cool to hear you sing Watcher in the Sky and some of these other tracks, because it offered a different perspective on the song, or a different take on it, as opposed to Kai or Hansi singing on it. Even though those versions are great, I still thought it was great that you decided to do them yourself.
Yeah, so that definitely is quite a dramatic change. But I think that's by far the most dramatic change that the songs are seeing on this album. Yeah,
right?
Because of course, I do sing it definitely different than Kai did. Yeah.
Hey, and so we've kind of coming back to the purpose of the interview, besides helping promote stuff and everything. It's been 20 years since you appeared on the show. You were one of the first interviews that I've ever done, and obviously you've had a pretty good 20-year career doing the Iron Savior thing. And what are some of the highs and lows of the last 20 years, and maybe some things you've learned over the past 20 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, to speak about the present, Iron Savior, what I'm really fond of is that Iron Savior is a well-known, established, worldwide known act. We're definitely not as big as other bands out there. Let's say Halloween, Gamma Ray, and Guy. Of course, there are Hammerfall. Of course, there are bands who are way bigger than Iron Savior. But I mean, on the other hand, I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I'm quite proud of what I have achieved with Iron Savior. It's definitely a lot more than most of the of other people who have been trying to do music on a professional way, and so therefore I'm really thankful. And on the other hand, I must say that I'm also thankful for the fact that I'm not as successful as others, because I really like my life the way it is now. To be honest, I have a home with a new kitchen. I have a family with 3 children. I can spend some time at home. I have quality time with my family. But on the other hand, I also have this music thing, and well, it's I wouldn't call it it's definitely much more than a hobby, but it's not the main thing in my life, and I'm thankful for that. To be honest, I really enjoy myself very, very much, and I did not want, and I wouldn't want to change this for 100% rock and roll life. That's not my piece of cake, to be honest.
Right.
And therefore, I'm really thankful that the ways that things turn out for Iron Savior the way they turn out. So that in the first place. On the other hand, yeah, I mean, lots of highs and lows in the Iron Savior field. I think to give a quick and rough view of the past 20 years, then it was very exciting, of course, to do all these albums in the very first years, and it was great to do this together with my buddy Kai. But on the other hand, it also was very, very stressful situation always in the first years, because the presence of Kai brought some attention to the band, but also brought negative attention to the band. Lots of people just pointed at Iron Savior or at myself and saying you would be nothing without Kai, and it's all based on Kai and his popularity, and so that was kind of hard to cope against this. Yeah, I call it Project Ghost, because Iron Savior was named as a project in the very first year, and this ghost of Kai Hansen, and but I think, right, looking back now and where Iron Savior is at this point, I think this is completely history, and I'm very glad for this as well, I must say. Of course, we had a lot of good years with Iron Savior, lots of fun. It's a very performing with Jan and Piso for such a long time now. There's a lot of friendship that's going on in Iron Savior, and yeah, and probably the worst thing of all was the downfall of my record label Dockyard. But I think we have been talking about this for a long time,
right?
And I probably don't need to point this out again. Yeah, and ever since this Dockyard issue is over and Iron Savior came back to the market with the Landing, things are turning out really nicely for us. I mean, Iron Savior is not the big, as I said in the beginning, not the biggest band in the world, but well, I mean, album sales are rising instead of decreasing, and I think that's a good thing. So, all in all, I'm quite happy with the band.
I found the old DAT tape of when we did our first interview, and actually, went back and listened to it, which was quite interesting. And I think we're kind of somewhere. I think it was somewhere U.S.
Oh yeah, I was in San Francisco at my mom's house. She used to live in San Francisco for a very long time. And yeah, it was I remember it was at her house when I was there on vacation when we did this interview. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because back then, I mean, bands like Blind Guardian and a lot of the German bands, Halloween, Gamma Ray, Iron Savior, a lot of these bands, nobody knew who they were over here, really. Nobody knew who they were. And they didn't really have any fan bases over here. Now you see Gravedigger touring here and Blind Guardian touring here, and you see some of them coming over here. And, for you, is your fan base a lot bigger, say over here than it maybe was now, maybe 20 years ago?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's bigger, but it's definitely much more better connected these days, just because of the internet and all the social media stuff. I mean, I think that really changed the world quite a bit. Look at the States, the country you're in. I mean, there was I mean, look at this typical American small town, 25,000 people living there. You probably have like 3 or 4 metalheads in this town, and the rest is regular people. I mean, how can they build a scene? It's not possible. So they were all by themselves, and they always kind of like remained the funny kids who were listening to this strange music, you know.
Right.
And that, of course, changed dramatically, I'd say. When people started to connect through the internet, and that of course was not the case when we did the first interview. I mean, back in the late '90s or late or the '80s or late '90s,
yeah,
there was not so much internet going on. I mean, it was like email and stuff like this, and maybe some chat here and there. But I mean, platforms like Facebook or just barely wouldn't they were not existing. There was also no way of getting this stuff. I mean, you could go to Tower Records, and they probably would have a couple of albums from Europe, but that's basically all. And the only way to get your stuff was to do it via mail order, which would take ages and was uncertain if you would be ripped off and lose your money and stuff like that. And all this has changed, you know, and so the community started to build up much more than it ever was before, you know. And I think that, of course, widened, so to speak, definitely also the fan base, not only of Iron Savior, probably for the whole genre, you know.
Right.
But of course, we are participating from this.
Well, you know, we've talked a little bit, and you know, obviously, when you and I first had started, you know, when we first started talking to each other, you know, vinyl wasn't a big thing, but now it is, and it seems to be the trend now. Seems to be that, you know, record labels are making vinyl, and then you get to download the album digitally if you buy the vinyl. And what's your opinion of vinyl sales maybe going on, you know, and helping the record industry?
Well, I think in a way it's something that I can understand, because you know, a CD as a collector's item is not so thrilling, to be honest. And since physical Tonträger, what's the name? Physical records like this.
Yeah.
And more and more became collector's items, because I mean, who puts on a CD these days? I mean, you listen to your MP3 player or you stream shit. You know, you don't use the physical media anymore. You collect it, you put it in your shelf, and there it sits. You know,
right?
and of course, a vinyl actually is much more fancier than the CD, in my opinion, and I think that's why many people are really are into vinyl again. You know, I don't think that people really actually play vinyl on their record players at home. Maybe, of course, some really die-hard analog vinyl fans do that, but I think most of the people who buy vinyl buy it for the collector items reason. You know, that's why and so that's a natural thing for me. I wanted to say something really cool, but I forgot what it was. So maybe it comes back.
Well, you know, it's you know, when I listen to the landing on vinyl, it sounds a little bit different than, say, the CD version does. And you know, I mean, you're a record producer, and you know what I'm talking about. You know, you have to master vinyl a little bit differently than, say, something digital.
Yeah, but the master I'm not doing the mastering for vinyl. I mean, I do a pre-master for vinyl, which has lower. Which has a lower output and stuff like this, and is not compressed as much. But the final vinyl master I'm not doing myself, because as you just named, it's a different thing.
From the production standpoint, you know, I noticed that the drums on this new album, you know, have a little more punch to them. And was that something you intended to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think on Titancraft, the drums are mixed in pretty much in the same way. Yeah. And what I did actually, or what happened is that I renewed my system a couple of years ago. I switched to the Universal Audio platform, and you're probably familiar with. And of course, I'm using Pro Tools as a recording platform still, but most of the plugins I'm running are based on the Universal Audio stuff. And also Waves came up with tons of let's say analog classic emulations of old recording gear, which you would find in recording studios, like let's say 20 years ago or so.
I love Waves.
And I love Waves as well, but I also really love Universal Audio. And of course, it's still digital emulations of analog sound, which of course is a paradox thing in itself, I would say. But because stairs will remain stairs, in the very end. But besides from that, I think they really did an awesome job in recreating this analog sound for digital platforms. And I've been using this a hell of a lot. Basically, I'm using all the stuff I can get. I'm using magnetic tape emulation for recording and mixing. All these nice compression units. I'm using Lexicon classic reverbs and delays and all that kind of shit. And for me, it really works awesome, I must say. It's great stuff. And of course, I just did a different interview. Of course, it's not done with buying all this. Of course, you also need a little bit, at least, to know which knob to turn and what to do with it.
Right.
And since I'm an old fart, most of the stuff I had the original hardware in my hand, so I know a little bit of what we're talking here.
Right.
And I must say the audio outcome I love so much. It's really great.
So have you gone in and started writing any songs for the next album?
Yeah. I already have 5 new songs, which are basically done. And coming back to this IKEA project with draw a lot of time from me lately. But now that this is over, I will focus on putting together some more songs, and then hopefully second half of 2018 the new Iron Savior album should be out in stores. Probably it will be a autumn release again, like the Landing has been. So let's say October, November, and in that area. So maybe earlier, but I don't think so, to be honest. I think October, November is a realistic period to expect the new Iron Savior.
So obviously you're very good friends with Kai, and you've been around him for a very long time, and he's back in doing a Halloween thing, doing a reunion tour, and with Michael Kiske back in there as well, and plus obviously the current band lineup that they have. What do you think about the whole reunion going on? And it's been very receptive. And what do you think about the whole Halloween thing, everybody getting together?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I was a little bit skeptic in the beginning, because I mean, all these persons you just named, they are like they're like special characters, to put it like this, And it was a little question mark for me if they would really last, And I think one thing that really is definitely helping a lot is that the tour is really awesome, successful. I mean, people really freak out about this, And of course, this boosts everybody up pretty much. And I think they just have fun every evening, enjoying themselves, playing in front of all these insane people, And it just gives them great feelings, good vibes, and that definitely glues them together pretty much, and so the fun they have together is definitely the most important thing, And by now, I think all of them are old enough, and wise enough that maybe, I don't know, if it comes to some difficulties here and there that nowadays there are, other ways to talk about it and deal with it than maybe, let's say, 20 years ago or so.
Right.
So, in the end, I'm really happy for everybody that it turns out to be really that successful. I mean, that people would really love it. You don't need you don't have special powers. You don't need special powers to know that up front. But I'm really happy that it turns out to be really this awesome. And I wish them all the best for the rest of the Pumpkin United tour, and hope that they enjoy themselves as much in the future as they do now, obviously.
Now, you grew up in Europe, and obviously you were around in Hamburg and in Germany when the whole metal scene started taking form there, and Noise Records had come out, and they had all these really great bands there. And what was it like coming up through that music scene?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I was very young at this point as well, and I didn't think about it very much. It was just happening, And for me, it was just cool that my music that I was listening to and that I liked, and which became so popular. I mean, it might sound a bit boring, but that was definitely all that was happening for me. And since it was awesome music, for me, it wasn't a big surprise that this kind of music also influenced other people, and was selling well on a really wide basis, And so it was. We were young, we were kids, we were teenagers, and we just had a good time. We were living for the day and listening to music. That was basically it. Cool.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your production work, because I know in the past you've produced bands and mixed albums for bands and things and stuff like that. But, do you have any current bands that you're working with? Do you still do that, or are you just enjoying home, the life at home and making Iron Saber albums?
No, I also do some mixing jobs for clients that we're talking about the possibilities of internet. This also is something that was not possible 20 years ago. Well, people just send in they send in their stuff. I download it and I do a mix down of the recordings and send it back, and everybody's happy without ever having seen us or talked to each other on the phone, just by chat or email contact and stuff like that. It's definitely a different thing than having a real person sitting next to each other. But on the other hand, I must say I do find it quite enjoyable to work like this, because I'm my own boss. I have my own timing, and whenever I have it fits into my other stuff that I have, I can do a little mixing here, a little mixing there. There's nobody sitting next to me. And that's what I do. But I also do still classic productions, of course. Not so much, because I'm really quite busy with my Iron Savior stuff and these smaller mixing things that I'm doing. But when I'm done with the new Iron Savior, I will start working on the new Paragon album, for example. Mm-hmm. And I do this. But I'm not doing this as much as other people do, because I'm not doing this as a main thing. This is something on the side I do.
Well, I could see that. You're not dedicated to doing this all the time. And then, you are basically going to be able to enjoy yourself and then still do the music thing when it's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, with Iron Savior, we could play more. There would be requests. But, if we play like 20, 25 or 30 shows a year, that's enough for us. We don't need to be on the road 300 days a year, because that's not why I founded a family or my home. I have my family and my home to be at home and to be together with the people I love, and therefore, but it's also cool to get out on the road, to be on stage, and to interact with the fans. I also really find this very, very enjoyable. And it's in the end, I have both. I have country and western, so it's really cool.
Well, I got a couple more things for you. The first thing I do have for you, Pete, is that I think it's been a privilege to be able to follow your career. And as a music fan, I'm really grateful for not only the fact you've come on my show quite a bit over the last 20 years, but the fact you're still out there making music and putting out good records. I think that is something that I truly, as a fan and as a person, as someone that loves this music, it's something I truly thank you for.
Oh, it's as I said, the pleasure is definitely on me. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I also it's also enjoyable for me to do this, to talk with people who like what I'm doing. It's I mean there's definitely worse in life I can imagine.
Well, I guess for my last question, and as you know, you've been on here enough. This is the last question I ask everybody. Do you have do you have any last words for the fans out there that are going to be checking out this interview?
Well, I mean, as I must say, as always, as usual already. I mean, without the fans, it's you can't name this, you can't point this out. I cannot point this out often enough. Without the fans, bands like Iron Savior or any band would be nothing, And therefore, every artist should be really thankful to his fans, and we are. And that's why we really appreciate all the support from the fans out there, and thank you very, very much for this. And we're looking forward that you will keep on supporting Iron Savior, and so that we have the possibility to keep on bringing you awesome metal music.